Hi, I'm a tutor for mathsandenglish.net, and today we're looking at terminating decimals. So this might be a term that you've never heard before, and the definition for it's actually pretty simple. Basically, a terminating decimal is just a decimal which has an endpoint. That might sound a bit silly because surely everything has an endpoint, but not necessarily. And I think one of the best ways to explain what a terminating decimal is by mentioning the alternatives, so decimals which are not terminating decimals. So the two types that you might get that are not terminating decimals are recurring decimals and irrational decimals. So a recurring decimal would be a number where the same number or set of more than one number repeat infinitely. For example, here we have 0.3 recurring. So that little dot above the 3 means that that 3 will recur, as in happen over and over and over again indefinitely. So 0.3 recurring with the little dot above the 3 could also be written as 0.33333 and onwards. You cannot write it as 0.333 unless you are rounding it to a certain number of significant figures or decimal places, because it's not exactly the same value. So as you can tell with that, there is no end. That 3 would go on forever unless you are rounding it to a smaller number. It can also get recurring decimals with multiple numbers that recur, and those will be shown by having more than one dot above digits. So here we have 0.275, where there's a dot above the 7 and the 5. So that means that that 7-5 combination is what recurs. So instead of it being 0.2755555, it's 0.275757575 forever. We can also see irrational decimals. Now, these are decimals that go on also forever, but it's not the same number repeating. They just go on forever with no particular pattern. So you could just get given a random one, like I've written down here, and I've given it an endpoint, but that's just because I can't write it down forever. Imagine it goes on indefinitely. Or something like pi, which goes on infinitely with different numbers all the time, and it's not a repeating set of numbers, but it doesn't have an end the way a terminating decimal does. We've now covered terminating decimals, and hopefully if they come up you'll be able to recognize them and tell the difference between them and recurring decimals and irrational numbers. Terminating decimals can also be converted into fractions. They're usually a lot more simple to convert back and forth to fractions than irrational numbers or recurring numbers are, and there are some simple conversions that you should be able to recognize without having to think too much about them. While terminating decimals can really be any length as long as they have an endpoint, usually the ones that you'll see when you need to convert them back and forth between fractions will be a little bit simpler. So some of the basic conversions that you'll see all the time is 0.5 being the equivalent of 1/2, so 1 divided by 2. 0.25 being the same as 1/4. 0.375 being the same as 3/8. 3.5 being the same as 7/2, and so on. We have a video coming up on converting between decimals and fractions, so give that a watch if you're not sure how this works or what to do for more complicated numbers. Next lesson, we're going to take a look at standard form, both turning numbers into standard form and out of it.